Hey everyone. I just want to first of all thank you for all of your kind responses and your support and the messages you guys sent me yesterday. I was having kind of a wonky day yesterday, it seems like a lot of you were too. So I appreciate it. And it's one of the things that I actually do like about social media is that ability to connect positively during this time, especially when people aren't connecting as much in person. We're starting to get out there, but I actually really love the fact that we can start to connect at least through social media and stay attached to each other and support one another. And so that's one of the positives. But I want to talk today about how your diet is affecting your immunity and your mood through all of this. In fact, everything you put on the end of your fork matters. I've been saying that for years, ever since I wrote the Omni Diet. Everything you eat affects your body in some way. And at the Amen clinics, people don't, they're always surprised that we focus so much on nutrition when they come to see us. We don't believe that one diet fits everybody. We actually want to test you individually, but we do believe that diet matters a lot when it comes to mental health, when it comes to anxiety, depression, or feeling very calm and happy. It also affects your immunity because if you're eating foods that increase inflammation, you are going to affect your ability to fight off infection. So I just want to talk about that for a second. What are a few of the ways that it's really affecting you? Well, the first one is obvious. For most people in this day and age, we know it's sugar, right? Sugar increases inflammation. If you're increasing inflammation, you will affect your immunity, but you will also affect your mood. So it causes rapid brain cell firing. If you're eating a lot of sugar, you're gonna increase rapid brain cell firing in addition to inflammation. So it can cause sort of erratic moods. It also increases sort of an ADD type response. So if you are ADD or you have sleepy frontal lobes, it'll increase that feeling and that inability to focus very well. It can increase brain fog. I'm trying to, hold on a second here. So just a second on sugar. So you want to make sure that you're cutting back on your sugar during this time. And it's been hard. And I know this because we're at home with kids in our house who are doing homeschool and they're stuck in the house. And so to placate kids and give them some sort of comfort and alleviate their anxiety, I think I've been hearing from a lot of people that they've been sort of caving into this. And certainly, I even, we've been a little less strict than we normally would be for the same reason. So we try to, mostly come up with healthy snacks. Once in a while, we would come up with, we would allow the kids to have something that we wouldn't normally allow them to have. But we're going to talk about the safe way to do that also. So that's one. When you eat a lot of sugar, it not only increases your illness, but it increases and affects your mood, but it increases your pain. People don't often think about that, but as inflammation increases, your joint pain increases. One of the first things we hear at Amen Clinics is that when we get people off of sugar, we get their sugar under control, which takes about 3 days. It's 3 days of being highly annoying and another 4 days of like, okay, I can do this. Then after a week, you sort of get over it. But for when you eat a lot of sugar, your joints become sore. So if you are a person who has arthritis or, just even people with fibromyalgia, we hear that all the time. So that's going to really help you. Now, during this time when people have been not exercising as much, gyms aren't open, we've really noticed people complaining about pain more. A lot more pain, and their diet isn't as good, and it's really affected them. And they feel sleepier too. So that's one of the reasons we want to work on that. Now let's talk about protein, a high protein diet versus a no protein diet. Like people who eat just plant-based diets, which isn't no protein, but we'll just, for all intents and purposes, we'll say no sort of animal protein, okay? So people who eat a high protein diet, let's just say like a ketogenic diet, high fat, high protein, that is really helpful for some people, but not for everybody. And so that's why we say not one diet doesn't fit all. The ketogenic type diet or the caveman type diet can be very helpful to a lot of people. And one of the reasons is because when you eat a high protein, high fat diet, it does help clear up brain fog. It can increase your focus, especially if you're ADD. And one of the reasons is because it's increasing dopamine. So it increases your ability to like think and focus. The problem comes in when you have people who have a really busy brain. So that's really good for an ADD brain. A sleepy brain people who have sleepy frontal lobes. But if you've got a really busy brain, during this time we're seeing people with a lot of anxiety. If you've got a lot of anxiety, oftentimes a high protein diet is not the best choice for you. And the reason why is because you're already anxious. And so when you increase dopamine and what happens is you start to spin, but you spin on thoughts that aren't necessarily good thoughts. So it can make you more anxious than you already were. So that's why when we talk about, for those people that have that sort of mouse on the wheel that won't get off the wheel, we talk about a more balanced diet. So we want you to have a pretty heavily plant-based diet, like lots of smart carbs, what we call smart carbs, so high fiber carbs. So we don't want you having high sugar carbs, but high fiber carbs. But so balance it out. We want you to have some protein to balance it out so that you are balancing your blood sugar and your ability to focus, but you need enough carbs that you're getting that settling feeling. So because the reason is carbs help to increase serotonin, which is sort of the opposite effect of dopamine. Dopamine is that let's go, that's that motivation neurotransmitter, whereas serotonin is the don't worry, be happy neurotransmitter. So if you're a super anxious person, that's having some carbs, the right carbs, is going to help settle you down especially during this time when you're just like overly anxious all the time. So think about for a second, women with PMS. What is the first thing you think of? If you can write to me and tell me, what's the first thing you think of if you have PMS? I'll tell you one right off the bat, chocolate. Most people think of chocolate. Another one is wine. And we're going to talk a second about that. We'll talk for a second about wine and what's going on with the new protocols for alcohol. But the reason women crave those foods, carbohydrates, pasta, chocolate, wine, is because it increases serotonin. And during your cycle, that part of your cycle, your serotonin drops and your mind starts to spin and the carbs settle you down. So that's why people who have that real anxious feeling, that type of a diet can be more helpful. So everything you put on the end of your fork matters. Understanding your brain actually matters during this time. So let's talk about cheat days. I want to talk about how much can you eat of, those snacky type foods that are not, aren't the best for you. And also how much alcohol should you have or can you have and get away with it. So I don't like cheat days. So at Amen Clinics, we would recommend you don't have cheat days because cheat days set you up for failure. You do really well all week. You finally get your cravings under control because it takes about a week to get your cravings under control. And then bam, in one day, you mess it all up because you eat lousy all day. You mess it all up and then you start craving stuff all over again. And you got to get it all under control all over again. But having one cheat meal, that's different. So we recommend you are 90 to 95% really good with your diet. So it's so that 5% or maybe 10% that you sort of go off track isn't going to completely sabotage everything else. So if you're going to have one meal rather than one day, then that's not going to set you up to totally fail, if that makes sense. And so what I do here is we don't do it every day. I don't even really do it once a week. But if we're going to do it, if we're going to have something, if let's just say someone in the family makes something homemade, I know I'm going to have some of that homemade baklava that the family makes, right? And for me, I'm careful with that for a couple reasons. It's not just the sugar, it's for me the gluten. The gluten is like killer for me. But if I'm going to have it, I'm going to have a 3-bite rule. So I don't have to eat a whole ton of it. I just want a couple bites of it, if that makes sense. It satisfies that like, oh, I want to socialize. I want to taste something that someone in the family made. And it's not a big difference. I don't need to polish off a tray of it to get the satisfying feeling of like, oh, I had a couple bites of it. So that's how we keep it in check. Don't have a full day, and then you won't crave it as much, and then you'll be able to follow that 3-bite rule and get back on track. And then you don't even need to feel guilty. You don't need to hate yourself or beat yourself up for it. And now let's talk about alcohol. So this one is going to be unpopular because the American Cancer Society just came out today with new guidelines. I don't know how many of you saw this. They used to say 1 drink a week, as long as it was 1 drink a week. I think for men it was 2 and for women it was 1, that it didn't increase your risk of cancer. And they completely changed that guideline and they said any alcohol increases your risk of cancer. I was a little mind blown because that's an extreme statement. So if they didn't mean it, they wouldn't say it. That is a pretty extreme thing to say in our society. And so I'm not a person who drinks a lot, but I drink a little bit. I have an occasional drink. So, for me, 1 or 2 glasses a week, I didn't really think much of it because I was still keeping it pretty low. But now I'm actually like, I'm probably not going to drink because that's really scary. I've had cancer. So if any alcohol, you have to go on and read the American Cancer Society's new guidelines. It's pretty crazy. If any alcohol can increase your risk of cancer, it's kind of scary. So what are some of the alternatives? One of the things I often tell people is if you just try to eliminate something from your life that you have, that's a habit, it's going to be pretty difficult to do. But if you try to replace instead of erase, so replace it with something else instead of erasing it. One of the things I love is lavender tea at night because it's settling. So what's one of the reasons people like to drink alcohol? One reason is to socialize, which right now we're doing less of. The other one is to relax, right? So you have a busy day, you're a little agitated, and it just sort of settles you so you can, go about your day. Well, come up with some other things that do that. Lavender tea is one for me. So I would love to hear from you. What do you guys do that help you? Meditation, lavender tea, like those are types of things that really help me. A warm bath. So please write to me and tell me what you guys do that help you relax. What's an alternative that you can use instead of a glass of wine or instead of, a drink at night? Would love to hear from you. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Let me know what's going on in your lives. Hopefully today is a better day for you. It's just certainly a better day for me, and your support is part of why it's a better day for me. I just was bombarded with loving messages. So maybe we can take that to heart and start doing that for one another. Just fill each other's days with, messages of hope and healing. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys can hear that. I have a little baby bird's nest right above me. They laid a nest in my awnings, and they are so cute. So that just made me smile. So focus on the things that make you smile, and it doesn't mean the other stuff isn't important and that we need to work on healing the nation, but I think we are in a more resourceful place if we can be empowered and less stressed. Have a great day. Bye-bye.